What's good, everyone? Today I'll be going over First Class Trouble. Some of you may have already heard about this or even played it, but have absolutely no idea on what to do. Well, you're in the right place because today I'll be breaking it down into different sections to make it easier for everyone to understand. Anyways, let's get to it. Let's go over the basics of this game first. This is a deception game similar to a popular game called Among Us, and also a board game called Clue. There are 6 players maximum in a lobby, 4 residents, and 2 personoids. Residents are the innocent people, and their goal is to shut down Kane, otherwise known as Central AI Network. Personoids are the androids, and they're trying to prevent the residents from shutting down Kane. I will explain more about the goals of the residents and personoids in the objectives section. But first, let's go over character actions. Let's talk about the general actions that any player can perform, whether they are residents or personoids. Any player can hold another player to prevent their movement by pressing F. Some players like to call this hugging, such as this person. Aw, she asked me if I wanted a hug. How sweet of her. You can also choke players while another player is holding them. This is called a co-op kill. You can also push players off the ledges or into hazards or just onto the ground. You can also carry corpses around. Now let's talk about the actions that only personoids can perform. One of them would be biovision. This allows them to see through walls, and players will be either red or green. Red indicating that they are personoids, green indicating that they are residents. Personoids also have their own voice chat, which allows them to speak to each other without the residents hearing them. Personoids can also force doors open. However, the doors will close again, which means you have to force it back open to get out. Personoids can also sabotage different objects, such as oxygen stations, oxygen generators, and passenger logs. They can also kill residents using overdose syringes, which can only be obtained by them in certain areas, which I will go over in the items section. Also, 2 personoids cannot perform a co-op kill. Next, let's talk about objectives. Residents and personoids have different objectives. Starting with residents, your goal is to shut down Kane while trying to figure out who the personoids are. You want to collect 3 key cards to progress to the next area. You also want to make sure that the global oxygen meter does not hit 0, otherwise the personoids would win. You also want to kill off the personoids once you figure out who they are, or you can vote them and send them out of the airlock in the next meeting. The biggest clue that this game will give you will be the passenger logs, and this can help you find out who the personoids are. You can also downvote anyone that makes any suspicious plays. If you make it to the 3rd level, you can shut down Kane, but make sure no personoids are with you. If you start off as a personoid, your objective will be to prevent residents from shutting down Kane. And that means you want to kill them whenever you can, you want to sabotage as much as you can, and generally just wreak havoc. And if you make it to Kane, you will also win as well. Now let's talk about the skill checks in this game. Currently there are 3 different types, and all 3 require 2 individuals to complete it. The first skill check that you will most likely encounter will be the one with symbols. There are a total of 8 symbols, and you have to describe to your partner what your symbol looks like, and vice versa. Once you guys have chosen the correct symbol, the door will open. Some people have called this Pac-Man. I've heard this one being called Target or Bullseye. This one has been called Cookie Jar, and I've heard this one being called Toilet. I'm not sure about the other 4, but you guys can figure it out. The next skill check is pretty simple. I call this the timing game. You and your partner have to activate the button at the same time. What I usually do is I call on 3, then I say 1, 2, 3, and they usually will activate at the same time as me. I'm sure other methods work as well. Do what works best for you. The 3rd skill check is what I call the Guitar Hero game. Moving lines will appear from the right and they will move to the left. Your job is to click mouse 1 once it passes over the brown area, and you and your partner have to keep doing this until the meter on the bottom becomes full. That's when the door will open. This skill check will be the one that you encounter the most because it's located in 4 areas: at doors, at oxygen generators, at airlocks, and also the escape pods. The escape pods are there for the residents to escape once they cannot win the game. For example, there is 1 personoid or 2 personoids still alive and you are the only resident, escaping would actually give you more points. However, if you are a personoid and you escape, you will most likely lose all your points because most of the time residents are still alive. The next section we're going to talk about will be the items in the game. There are a total of 14 items in this game, excluding the non-useful items. First, let's go over the keycards. Keycards are used to progress to the next floor, and each floor requires 3 keycards to move on to the next area. You also need one of each color. Next, keycard triangulator. This device is used to find keycards, and when you point it at the direction of the keycards and move closer to it, the keycard triangulator will increase in frequency to indicate that the keycards are nearby. Next, overdose syringe. These syringes can only be picked up by Personoids, so make sure you watch over them as residents. They are used to kill residents. Next, let's talk about passenger logs. These logs will give you a clue about the Personoid's identity. For every airlock meeting, there will also be one log that would be randomly chosen to be revealed. Next, oxygen flask. You can use these items to refill the global oxygen meter, which depletes over time. You can hold a maximum of 3 oxygen flasks. If the global oxygen meter runs out, then everyone dies and the Personoids win, so make sure to refill it. Next item, corpse scanner. There are 2 types of scanner, corpse scanner and live scanner. The corpse scanner scans dead players and the live scanner scans living players. The live scanner is more rare than the corpse scanner, which can be found in the early game, but the live scanner is usually found in the late game. Next, champagne bottle. These are used to stun players, and you can hold a maximum of 3. Next, 6-pack. These can be used to also stun players. There will be 6 consecutive beer bottles thrown. Next, paper airplanes. You can toss these at people, just like champagne bottles, and you can stun them. I did notice that the paper airplanes are less effective when it comes to stunning players compared to the champagne bottles. I also heard that you can throw these across a fire, and if they contact someone, then that person will be lit on fire. However, I have yet to try this. Next, rackets. You can use these to whack people and send them flying. Next, wrench. You can use these to open doors forcibly, but it's a one-time use. Next, fire extinguishers. You can use these to put out players on fire or just to put out fires on the floor. Next, speed boost. You can temporarily speed yourself up and you have infinite uses. However, you do have a cooldown. And lastly, we have useless items. You can open a box or baggage and come up empty. You could get a nice pair of trousers. You might find only socks, or you can find empty bottles of liquor, and you can find a toothbrush. Let's talk about locations next. Currently, there are 6 locations in this game, and they can be separated by levels. The first level will always be the lobby. The second level will be randomized between restaurant, casino, resort, or mall. And the third level will always be the server room. Depending on the location, there will be different hazards, which I will talk about next. There are 6 different types of hazards. Let's start with fires, which can burn you if you get too close. You will also find electricity in certain areas, and this requires teammates to disable it for you. Otherwise, you will be shocked. You could also drown at the resort if you fall into the pool. Another player has to grab the life-saving tube if you want to be rescued. At the casino, you can die from falling chandeliers. There's also a freezer at the restaurant, which requires a partner to do a skill check to hold the door for you. If your partner fails, or if he failed on purpose because he was a personoid, then you will be stuck inside and freeze to death. And lastly, you can die at the airlock if the person once again fails to do the skill check, or if someone pushes them while they are doing the skill check, then you will be sent out into space. Now you might be wondering, what happens when you die? Well, you become a vacuum cleaner or a hoover. You can basically do 4 things as a vacuum cleaner. You can vacuum or hoover. You can shoot the items that you have vacuumed, such as forks, and you can fly. You can also teleport. When you get stuck in an airlock, for example, you can teleport to the nearest player and it will get you out of the airlock. There's usually a item on the map that you will be able to obtain if you hover over it, such as the 4-leaf clover. I think for the new patch, it's an umbrella. And you can play tag with the other vacuum cleaners or the other dead people, and you will get points for this. Now that we understand locations, we can talk about the progression of the game. Here's a basic understanding of it. You start off on the first level in the lobby, then you move on into the airlock meeting where you can vote off someone or choose to skip. Then you can go to the second level, which is restaurant, casino, mall, or resort. Then you head into the next airlock meeting where you can choose to vote someone off again or skip. And then you move to the third level in the server room where Kane is. Let's start with the first level. When you first start off, you always start with a partner on the other side of the door. That means that there will be 3 starting points for the lobby. And that means 3 simple skill checks. And then for the first floor, when you move out of that room, there will be 2 skill checks. One near the key card door or the elevator and one in the back. Your job is to find 3 key cards and also find the passenger log. There's usually one on this floor before you move on to the next level. Once you find all 3 key cards, you can now move on to the first airlock meeting. There are 2 parts to this meeting. The first part will give you 1 minute to vote someone off and send to the airlock, or you can choose to skip the vote. It will also reveal a random passenger log. The second part will give you 30 seconds to answer this question: are all the personoids gone? If you answer no, then the game will continue to the next level. If you answer yes, you can end the game right there. If residents are left, then residents will win the game. However, if there is a personoid among them, then they will lose and personoids would win. Moving on to the second level, you will also be required to find 3 key cards. This is where you will also want to start finding out who the personoids are by using passenger logs and different items such as scanners. There is also an escape pod in level 2. Once you find all 3 key cards, you can now move on to the second airlock meeting. And this meeting is the same as the first airlock meeting, where you vote someone off or you choose to skip. And it will also ask you, are all the personoids gone? You can answer yes or no. Once the airlock meeting is over, you will now move on to the third level in the server room. The server room has 2 high-risk areas: the mini bridge, which leads usually to a passenger log, or the airlock, which usually has a scanner or a passenger log inside. There will also be a overdose syringe in the middle. There is also an escape pod in the server room. Make sure when you get to Kane at the main bridge that you do not have any personoids with you as residents, otherwise you will lose the game. As personoids, you want to cause as much chaos here as possible by sabotaging their skill checks at the mini bridge or at the airlock, or killing them off with the overdose syringe. As residents, you want to work together to make sure that you are able to get these clues such as the passenger logs and the scanner without having the personoids interfere. Now let's talk about the point system. I will talk about what points you can earn and some of the negative points, but I will not go into detail of how many points you can earn. So residents earn progression, deduction, and collaboration points, while personoids also earn progression, but instead of deduction and collaboration points, personoids will earn deception points and sabotage points. Progression points are points that you get if you move on to the next area, and that means by inserting key cards, picking up passenger logs, handing in oxygen to the oxygen station, or extinguishing fires. Deduction points are given when you eliminate a personoid, assist in the elimination of a personoid, downvote a personoid, or vote a personoid, or if you scan them or you save the resident from a hazard. For collaboration points, you can get these points by completing co-op doors, if you repaired an oxygen generator, if you shut down Kane with your residents, or if you won the game with no personoids alive during the airlock meeting, or if you escape while personoids remained. Now as personoids, you also get progression points by progressing to the next area, but for deception points, you earn by picking up syringes, or if you kill the resident with the hazard, if you overdose a resident with a syringe, if you sabotage an oxygen station, if you voted on a resident during a meeting, or you were the last person alive once you killed everyone. Personoids can earn sabotage points by sabotaging oxygen generators, or even if they fail to repair an oxygen generator. There are also extra interactions in this game that can be fun. If you go to the table full of bottles and press F, you can have a drink, and your character will be drunk for a small period of time. There is also an area where you can dispense a cigarette. There are also jukeboxes around the area where you can dance to. At the casino, you can play the slot machines. You can also dispense a lighter, and you can also play instruments. If you watch the whole guide and still don't understand how to play, well, in the loading lobby, there is a tutorial section that you can go to, and it will also teach you how to play. What's good, everyone? Thank you guys for watching. If this video helped you out or you enjoyed it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If there's any mistake I made or anything I missed, then go ahead and comment down below. This week's video was a little bit different. It's more information based, but I wanted to help out the people who didn't really understand first class trouble, and when I looked up information, there wasn't much, so I figured, why don't I make my own? And that's how this video came about. So if you enjoy this type of content, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell notification. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.